This is the start of my brutally honest review series, which is different from my webtoon recommendation series. This new series will contain minor to major spoilers. This video will also be very biased as this is not a constructive criticism. My statements in this are not based on analysis but simply on what I felt. If you disagree with my opinion, I respect yours. If you try to correct me, that's a different matter. I understand that we all have our own interpretations. So all I'll just ask is for you to respect my opinion as I respect yours. I won't try to correct you either. I admit that it's been a while since I've last read Random Chat. Things I might say may have been influenced by my memory lapses and failures, and with all that said, please proceed at your own discretion. Now let's start with briefly what the series initially was about, to at least refresh our minds. Random Chat, an app that allows you to chat and mingle with some random strangers. Basically the Omegle of webtoon, I guess. We have the main protagonist Junwoo, an outcast and a victim of bullying. Unable to interact with his classmates, he uses Random Chat instead in order to interact with strangers, where he can feel good about himself and talk trash. But alas, coincidence of plot convenience got him connected to not just any pretty young girl, but someone close physically, or geographically, rather, because they're in the same classroom. His classmate named Sunga Yoon. Not wanting to lose this connection, he decides not to tell Sunga because he was afraid that she would be creeped out by him. But through it all, he decides to assist and guide her in her life behind the scenes. So I really thought this webtoon was predictable, but oh boy, it proved me wrong, so bad to the point I don't know where the fuck the story was going to take. And I'm not going to say it was in a good way. It started with Junwoo finding out that the other person in the other side of the chat was his classmate, and as the nice guy he was, he wanted to be this girl's knight in the shining armor behind the scenes. Oh, Sunga wants to look good in front of the class president? Junwoo asked the class president his type of girl. Oh shit, Sunga has a stalker, and it's the previous individual who she chatted with in Random Chat. Well, Junwoo protected her and fought the creep. Oh no, she started to get bullied. Junwoo was there, both virtually and physically, to comfort and defend her. But yeah, we all knew Junwoo would want something more than that, even if he tried to convince himself that he was content with her happiness. He did everything for her, but for what exactly does he gain? He cannot help but be insatiable. That's simply human nature. And this was when a conflict begins. This was a predictable phase, but a phase that I certainly wanted to pass by because it often pains my heart. But what I kind of hate about this phase was how it was handled subparly, in my opinion. Junwoo goes into too many circles. Not that it doesn't happen in real life, but at a narrative standpoint, it kind of gets boring pretty quickly. I also often felt as I read through the series whether this was still Random Chat. As I reached somewhere in the middle, I asked myself a question: when did this turn into an action series? Not gonna lie, this series never struck me as an action webtoon. I felt like I was reading Random Chat at one moment, then suddenly felt like I was reading Weak Hero at the next. It was so jarring. It was only later that I found out that it's labeled with an action tag in other websites. The first fight this series had was more to a down-to-earth mud fight. Then after a couple of dozens of chapters, we would see that our protagonist started fighting back like in an action school genre story. While indeed that our main character showed some amazing reflexes early in the story, I never really thought that the story would transform itself like this. The story somehow became action-oriented when it initially wasn't. And as the story became more focused on action, the Random Chat app, which was used as a plot device, became less and less relevant for some period of duration. But at least it was brought back to relevancy at a later time. And despite the fact that our protagonist keeps on getting into fights, he barely trained himself. The last time he trained in boxing was in a middle school flashback, and that was long ago. There was a period though where he did come into realization that he must train his weak body, but that only lasted for 1 week in universe time. There was one relationship in the series that I really hated the most in the story. And it wasn't between our main protagonist and our initial main female character. It is actually between our protagonist and his previous main bully, Taeyang. Personally, I don't like Taeyang's character because he is a Bakugo archetype. Ever since I've seen Bakugo in My Hero Academia, I've begun to see Bakugo in more and more other shows, and I really find his character archetype annoying. My dislike for the Bakugo archetype is more complex, but one of the main reasons that I don't like is that they always shout for almost no fucking reason. Imagine actually having someone like that close to you in real life. I believe that would be unbearable. But now let's look at the relationship of Junwoo and Taeyang, who were actually best friends back in middle school. But because of some misunderstanding, they both got so angry at each other and ended up becoming enemies. Junwoo used to be much cooler back then but was weaker than Taeyang, and when they fought, Junwoo had little to no chance at all in winning. Eventually he stopped fighting back and simply became bullied. However, after knowing that someone was manipulating some strings from behind, I thought the relationship would get much better. It did, but only for a very little bit. While Taeyang was initially ready to reconcile with Junwoo, Junwoo built wall and denied that advance. I was actually surprised there, but I understood where Junwoo was coming from. Taeyang was the one who crushed his development as a person. His confidence and self-esteem plummeted ever since the bullying started. Junwoo became what he is at the start of the series. He became a wimp, a recluse, an outcast, and a pushover because of Taeyang. But my problem was, after 100 chapters and over later, the relationship barely improved. So many chapters passed by but there was little progress in the relationship. Taeyang was the annoyed tsundere shouting type guy. He obviously cared for Junwoo in some way, probably because he felt guilt over the years, but would try to cover it. There were times he went to save our main protagonist at moments when he was in trouble but would make up excuses. Aside from that, all I can remember when Taeyang and Junwoo would meet up is that Taeyang was always annoyed and would roar in front of our main character, Junwoo. He shows this kind of trait, though not only towards our protagonist but towards two other people as well. I really wish that the relationship was handled better. There was 100 chapters of potential wasted. Now I'm gonna briefly discuss about the class president Daeun-im. To be honest, I don't really know what to think of him. At first he really seemed like a nice guy, at the surface of course. I really find it that this guy is unnecessarily mysterious. Like, he shows that sinister eyes at times. There was also an instance where he told that one girl to never tell someone about his past. And this guy wants Sunga. I don't know if it's out of love, obsession, or whatever. However, knowing that Junwoo was an obstacle to that, he was seriously annoying towards our protagonist. He's an enigma that I believe wasn't needed in the story, at least up to where I read. I don't know how much weight of a role he holds in the latest chapters or in the future, and whether his puzzling background makes any sort of impact. But I do hope his mysteriousness makes a huge impact in the later chapters, or else the build-up would have been for nothing. Now let's talk about the things that I actually like about the series. Remember how Sunga fell in love with the guy she chatted with? The concept of how Sunga was in love with the idea of the person on the other side of the app and not the actual person themselves was really executed well. Knowing that her knight in shining armor, the one who helped her in the times of hardship, was just Junwoo all along. Her expectations were shattered. She mentally broke down and everything she wanted Junwoo to take the blame. I like the philosophy of Junwoo who was the one who said to Sunga's face that she wasn't in love with him but the idea of him. And he realized that that person could have been anybody. It could have been somebody else on the other side of the phone and would chat to her and it wouldn't have made a difference. To be honest, I expected the reveal to be dragged a little bit more. However, the author completely caught me off guard when Junwoo revealed himself to Sunga. And finally, let's talk about not just the best part of this comic, but the best character and the best girl, Hamin Park. Seriously, if it wasn't for Hamin Park, I would have quit this comic long ago. She is smart, patient, loyal, cute, understanding, and everything there is to wish for in the best girl. And I was finally happy when she started officially dating Junwoo because I just wished for her happiness. Now that Junwoo got together with her, I was really expecting Junwoo to delete the random chat app, but you know what, he still can't let go of the fucking app. He erased the connection between him and Sunga in the app, but still can't delete the fucking app. I don't like his attachment to it. I thought that he already had dedication and will, but no. This was a rare moment in time that I truly rooted for the class president to kick our main character's ass. Then almost out of nowhere, with little to no build up at all, a hottie foreigner contacts Junwoo through random chat saying that she has arrived in Korea and would like to meet up with him, just as they talked or promised long ago. It was at this moment that I decided to quit reading this comic. Not that anyone really cares if I do. I don't exactly know what will happen in the rest of the story, but I can smell a misunderstanding and an unnecessary drama coming. I hope my guts are wrong on this one though, but by quitting I can preserve the good memories and the happy times between Junwoo and Hamin. All I wish for is that Junwoo stops circling around and makes it clear and dedicate his heart to Hamin and delete the fucking app. I don't know what kind of magnetic field he has to be able to attract beautiful girls or hot girls at the other receiving end of the app, but that's just how stories like this always are. Wow, I just can't believe I made this long ass video myself. Despite my brutal criticism of this webtoon, however, do not get me wrong, I utmostly respect the authors and artists of this comic. We all know it is not easy to make a story and draw. It's truly a tough and demanding job, especially if done on a weekly basis. I can dislike or disapprove of someone's product and work, but hating the author or an artist is a different matter, and we should not do that, to be honest. Now I'll end it here. Thank you and goodbye, webtooners.